Okay, gonna make a recap on today's trades. It's never fun going through a big red day like this and sharing it on YouTube and out there, but the whole point of me sharing my journey is to go through the ups and the downs, and a big red day today, like today is important to learn from. We saw last week that a big red day was followed up by two really decent trades, which wiped out the red and put me actually in more profit than I was on that one red day. So I can definitely get this back pretty quickly, but it's important to go through it to see the mistakes and just to share with you that trading isn't all that easy. Although there were opportunities today, I would say that it was probably a day where there was a lot that didn't really work out in my niche. And when that happens, it is going to be harder to make money. It is going to be easier to go off track. But I didn't really achieve the standards that I'm trying to hit. So we'll go through it all. We'll start out with the daily watch list. The main two stocks on watch were CPOP, which I was just looking at to see if it could break down. We've come a long way now. We closed yesterday up 116%. We've got a long way to come back as well for support for a stock this price, to the sort of like the lows of the previous day. We've got around 50, 60, 70 cent. So I thought there was definitely potential on this to catch a nice move lower. Might need one more day, but I really liked it for a short. And then the other main stock I was watching was KRPX. Very similar chart in the respect that we're up a lot. Yesterday we closed up 70%. The ATR on this is like 19 cent or something like that. So we're up quite a few ATRs. We were opening below the previous day's lows. And again, just looking for an opportunity to short. And then the third stock that I had on watch, which I think was a mistake to have, was SBUX. And what I tend to do is use the bigger name stocks as a gauge for if there's going to be a lot of momentum in the market in the sort of like the bigger caps. And I look at things like Tesla, Apple, etc. And SBUX is on that list. And I had 117.50 marked as a really nice key level and thought, oh, this is a really good opportunity for a long. The market's been very strong over the past few weeks. It's had a pullback, and if it begins to go, there's a lot of things that can go with it. And in hindsight, this just isn't a very key level. When we look at SBUX, it's kind of in a chop. I think if I was to redo my list now, SBUX wouldn't even make it, because although we did have a particularly nice period here, it hasn't got a very big range to it on a normal day, and it's not a momentum mover, and it hasn't really got momentum behind it. It's just chopping around, so it's not really an ideal stock to be trading. It's in a range, and therefore it's probably one I could have avoided today. They were my main three. I was also watching BLCT. We were gapping up. I was looking for a potential long on that. CELZ, same thing. IMMX, which we'll go through a lot, looking for the same thing. And MBOT looking for a potential short, but nothing else too interesting. So, okay, let's move me out the way just for a second. We'll bring me back and we'll go through the trades. So, first trade I took was on SBUX, and this one really wasn't all that good. Essentially, what I was looking at was, had I stuck to my sort of initial plan, I was looking to take this only through 117.50. However, it began holding around 117. I thought if we break that and we see momentum coming in, I could get in a little bit early, take, maybe 100 shares at 117, risking 50 cents, 60 cents, so keeping the risk small, and then add through 117.50 and end up with 200 shares through 117.30. As I was watching it, the momentum didn't really come in, and that made me hesitate and not take it at 117. And that should have been enough for me to go, this actually isn't a play at all. We didn't take it through 117.50 because we've moved over a point in the opening 10 minutes of a day, which is a big red flag for me to not take a trade. So really, there's nothing doing on this. Should have just left it alone. But because I'd worked out I'd have a position at 117.30, I thought I'd take a position instead at 117.26 if we pull back. So I ended up taking 100 shares at $117.26 and obviously stopped out down here at 116.78. Um, End up taking a loss of about $50 on it, and it was a trade that really shouldn't have ever happened. The daily chart wasn't great, although I wasn't, I can forgive myself for having it there because although the daily chart isn't what I'd want it to be, it was a hindsight thing. So at the time I was looking at it like that, so it's not the end of the world. But the entry was not in line with my approach, and I can always tell that when I take smaller size when something isn't in line with my main strategy. If I ever take half size and it's not a planned half size, like okay, I'm going to get in particularly early because it's breaking a key level before a key level, then I know I've made a mistake. And that was what happened here with Starbucks. So a bad trade overall. Kind of deserved to take a loss. It might not be a massively losing. It might be the sort of thing that works some of the time, but it's certainly not a good enough trade for me to be taking. Second trade I took was on CPOP. This one was a lot better. I'm really happy with the execution on this trade. We opened up, chopped, took out the highs, took out the 50 EMA. Looked like we were going to gather some momentum. It tries to hold, fails, and big selling pressure came in. When we saw that big selling pressure, I was prepared to take it short. I waited for it to drop around VWAP, and once I began seeing weakness come back in, I jumped in with a 500 share short at 334. My stop was initially to high of day, but once we broke this level of support here at 330, I moved the stop to 343, and unfortunately got stopped out of this one on this pop higher and took a $44.70 loss. There were additional borrows in that, of course. So I paid about $20 and got a slight rebate on that. So I paid about $14 in borrows. So unfortunately, it's probably a slightly bigger loss, close to $60. Funnily enough, there was another opportunity on this later on after I'd stopped trading for the day. We have a really solid move and it flagged back into VWAP. So this would have been the entry here. Probably would have taken 500 shares. It never gave an opportunity to add, and I'd have probably been stopped out for a very small loss on it anyway, so no loss really there for not taking it. I'd have probably had my stop at 351, so I might still be in this, or I might have got out for a scratch, who knows. But yeah, so interesting that there was a play a little bit later on. And then the rest of the trades came on IMMX, and this was just really bad trading. Like I said, I was down $100 and I began feeling the pressure to get some of that back. Began searching, saw IMMX and thought this is a sort of stock that could squeeze. Here we go. And the thing that really frustrates me looking back is I actually made a mental note to not take this at 760 because I thought this is the sort of thing that could just pop up and whip down lower and take out and end up selling off pretty aggressively. It didn't do that, and I think that sort of caught me off, and I was like, well, maybe this could go in the end. Maybe it will give a move. And in the end, I jumped in on the break of $8 and got stopped out immediately. Unfortunately, I did because it was whipping like anything, and took a very quick $56 loss, getting in 100 shares at 801 and out at 745. And at that point, I think the wheels came off a little bit because I should have at that point said, okay, walking away from this, fine, lock in a negative 150 day is really not that bad. But revenge trading kind of got the better of me, and I ended up taking it again. I took it first in here on this break of $8 and got stopped out again. Almost identical trades, slightly less loss this time at $45. And then I actually took another trade on it where I started in with 50 shares around 778 in here somewhere, and then added 30 more as it took out this level here, and then stopped out for pretty much a scratch, only a $15 loss. But all three of those trades are bad. If I was to write out my strategy for you real quick, it would sound like this: wait for a low of day to get taken out on a stock that gaps up. So we've had that, but it was after a halt, so it kind of loses some of its validity. And then wait for a level near the high of day to be tagged twice or more, and enter long on that or the high of day. And we can see here that this level eventually did get tagged twice, and the one opportunity that there was that I would have been okay taking would have been this through 830. So it would have been a case saying, okay, I'm in at 830, risking down to 875, so I'd have probably taken 150 shares on this. Once it made that move and tested the high of day and failed, I would have moved my stop down to around about 790, which is where I actually got out around 780. So I'd have probably moved it to about 790 if I'd have had a bigger size and was in there. So I would have taken a loss on it anyway. It would have been around about 40 cents, so a $60 loss. So I'd have taken that trade and the CPOP trade. I'd have been fine with today. You know, losing $120 on two legitimate setups that didn't work out is fine. It was the fact that I took three really bad trades on IMMX that shouldn't have happened, and obviously the one on SBUX that shouldn't have happened either. And funnily enough, if we have a look at some of the other stocks that gave opportunities today, most notably KRPX, there was actually very good opportunity to make money. Obviously, it's all hindsight trading, so it's, you know, and we're never going to be perfect with human, but at the same time, there was opportunity. This 142 level was actually a lot cleaner than I really looked at. And the opportunity to get short on this was once we rejected it, I was watching this for a short, it came down and I was debating getting in, it took out low of day, and for whatever reason, I decided I'm not interested in it. And I think that's a real mistake. I don't know why. There have been times in the past where when a stock takes out low of day, I see it just dump and I'm not interested in it, but this doesn't really meet that criteria because we're gapping down. On a stock that's gapped down, it showed weakness. We're just looking for that pop into VWAP once it's confirmed. There was an opportunity to take it short in here, and I did the maths on it earlier. I'll quickly grab that up. Here it is. So I would have taken around about 1,500 shares short here, which wouldn't have cost anything as well. The borrows would have cost something, but it wouldn't have cost anything because I'd been getting in on the ask. Maybe even more. You know, I'd have been risking about 5 cents. So, but 1,500 shares risking $75, $80. When it took out low of day, I would have been adding around about 1,000 shares, and I would have had 2,500 shares at a 135.6 average. And if we have a look at the 5-minute real quick, the first level of support and natural support would have been this 124, 125 area. And those 250 shares I would have been getting out at 126. And I'd have got all of them out there because it's just it's the first red day, but on a stock that hasn't really given a massive move. So that trade would have made, before fees, around 240, 235 in that sort of ballpark. And after fees, definitely 220 to 230. And yeah, that was the other legitimate place. Had I taken the CPOP trades and taken a loss on it, the one legitimate setup on IMMX and taken a loss on it, and then taken this, which was the third really legitimate trade, I'd have probably still had a day where I made over $100, maybe even 150, depending on depending on exactly where I got in and out of things. And then the only other trade was on BLCT, where we had a level around the 187 mark, gapped up, sells off. This one possibly didn't take out a low, so there might not be short straps. There was this really nice little wick here on decent volume. So had we taken it long here at 188, I'd have been risking 10 cents on it. So I'd have taken 1,000 shares, risking $80. And my target would have been on the break of 2, so probably get to like 206, 208 maybe. Obviously, it didn't do that. Once it pressured 2 and did all that, I would have been getting out of this for a tiny loss, maybe like $15 or so. So that was another potential opportunity which didn't give a loss, and that was about it. There was this is one I wasn't watching at the open, so it's not really one I can really talk about, but we had a really nice dip that then ripped on CELZ. It's not something I'd really take, actually. So yeah, so I always look back at these days and go, I screwed up, I traded badly, and I much prefer that compared to when the strategy doesn't work, because it always gives me heart to look back and go, Had I traded well, had I executed my strategy well today, I would have made money, even though it was not a particularly easy day to trade. There's always an element of luck in this. You know, had I kept an eye on, I can't even remember the name of the stock now. Had I kept an eye on KPRX and not moved my attention to IMMX, you know, it may have been a situation where I would have taken that and missed all of that mess on IMMX and ended up green solidly on the day and would have been making a very different video. So there's always a slight element of luck in this. On the other hand, on other days where there's two good things, two bad things, you could take the two bad things. So it evens out over the long run. For me, all these days signifies that I just need to review and to find if there's any critical moments that I can identify to stop myself from taking bad trades before I get emotionally attached to an idea. So that was today. Not very good day trading. Let me know how you guys got on if you took trades on IMMX. I'm sure a lot of people did. I'm sure a lot of people got stuffed out long, and a lot of people who took it short probably ended up making some money. And yeah, hope you all had a good start to the year, and see you again tomorrow.